Hey guys, we had planned a regular episode today, but I can't do that. It is difficult to think about anything other than the situation we find ourselves in as a country. And to do a regular show wouldn't feel honest. And I think this show is at its best when it's honest, and I am at my best when I'm being honest. So today I'm going to talk about the murder of Renee Nicole Good. It's been a little bit over a week, and I have so many thoughts and feelings, and this felt like the ideal forum to share those with you. If your inclination is to say, why is my dog account getting political? One, you must be new here, and two, you can't go home to your dog if you're killed by a masked agent of the state. If you're here for a dog, we still have one, and she is extremely adoptable. Before we dive in, please join me in welcoming Tiger Lily. She is just under a year old. She's very loud. You're okay? You're okay. Look how many treats are still on that bed. And I've even got some. I've even got some for you. So Tiger Lily has some stranger danger, which makes sense because we don't know all of her history, but she was found as a stray in Barstow with severe mange. She was then rescued by the Hit Living Foundation here in LA. Is that true? Yeah, that just looks so painful. It was. Yeah. I'm sure it was. Do you know that you're spitting a little bit when you talk? A little bit when you talk. It's just coming out a little bit. So we're still getting warmed up to Tiger Lily, and she may not be here the whole episode, but we really wanted to show her off because she's gorgeous, and she's come so far with that mange. As you can tell already, she looks so different. The Hip Living Foundation says, her current foster is also her trainer, which is very, very convenient. Tiger Lily, this is what Hit Living says. Tiger Lily loves training. She's mastered the basics of yes, no, sit, down, spot, and off. She settles really well in her crate and is sleeping through the night. With structure, enrichment, and play, she really does shine. And her foster said that she fit perfectly that 3-3-3 rule. I think we've mentioned it before. Basically, for any rescue dog or a new dog into your home, 3 days to decompress. Maybe 4. 3 days to decompress. 3 days to decompress. You can correct me if I'm wrong. 3 days to decompress, 3 weeks to learn your routine, and then 3 months to really start feeling at home. And that's about the time that her fosters had her, and she said that matches perfectly to how comfortable that Tiger Lily has gotten. It's a nice change of pace. Our dogs are typically too scared of the mic. They think it's too big of a platform for them. But Tiger Lily is not concerned with that. Hit Living says, what do they say? What do they say? They say that Tiger Lily will be a sweet and hilarious addition to any family. Her ideal home is with someone who enjoys training and enrichment, has a yard, and ideally has a well-socialized dog who can show her the ropes. Tiger Lily has come so far, she just needs her person to help her keep growing. Don't we all? Don't we all? I've got more for you. Don't we all? You are, I said it earlier, you're spitting a little bit when you're talking. You inhaled that last one. It was a little quick. You got more treats over here. No, you do. Look at these. They are the ones that are closer to me, so I understand. Yeah. Look at those. We're thrilled to share that Tiger Lily's adoption fee is sponsored. It's true. I know. It's sponsored. I got more. Her adoption fee is sponsored. It's sponsored by a Twitch channel, actually, which is the first time this has happened. It's the Twitch channel Raven's Rescue. They actually raised the money on stream for this purpose, for you. They said, we are dedicated to helping animals in shelters receive the love and care they deserve. So round of applause if Tiger Lily will let us. There we go. For Raven's Rescue. Very, very kind of you. We have another mic. You can just get on the mic. You actually got some spit on your own eyebrow that time, which also happens to the best of us. If you would like to sponsor a future guest's adoption fee, you can email podcast@weratedogs.com. I don't know if you noticed her socks, but I did immediately. She's not missing any. Typically, when the dog has socks, they've got one that they forgot at home, but she's got all 4. So again, just because I'm new to Tiger Lily, she might not be comfortable the whole time with me, but that's okay because we do have a little bit of a more serious episode today. So totally fine if she needs to take a break. Honestly, her foster said that because we met her briefly in the other room, and her foster said that meeting us was the best she's done meeting strangers so far. So there's certainly that. There's certainly that progress there. Her trainer has full confidence that she can assimilate to a wide variety of households with the right training. So we all believe in you a whole bunch. We do. You got some on my computer that time. I didn't say anything. Does sometimes... Oh. That's going to look really cute. That's going to look really cute. I know. It's going to, though. It's going to look really cute. So once again, Tiger Lily available for adoption from the Hit Living Foundation here in LA. Her adoption fee taken care of, sponsored. That's incredible. We're on quite a streak with those sponsors. And she just needs, again, just a patient household that's committed to her continued training. Her current foster, who's worked a ton with her, says that if you're in her area, then that training can you got me. That's the first time you really got me. Then that training can absolutely continue. She also has her own courses that we'll link in the description. But those resources are there if you want to take the leap and adopt Tiger Lily. She's delightful and, again, has already made so much progress just in the last 20 minutes of us meeting her. And, yes, the treats are raining from the sky. I don't know if you can see that, but, yeah. You're very sweet and good and wonderful. And I'm sorry that that's hard for you, but it'll get easier. So it's been a little over a week since Renee was killed. If you've heard some of these details 100 times before, I apologize, but it is helpful context. It helps me organize my thoughts. Renee was an American citizen who had moved from Kansas City to Minneapolis last year. She had a son who is now 6 with her second husband, who died in 2023. Her third marriage was to Rebecca Good. Of that day, Rebecca said, "We stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns." I already hate that I must first tell you about Renee in a way that just because I know every detail of her life has been picked apart to try to justify her death. And so even in just giving you the start of who she was, feels like I'm trying to justify her worth to you, which has been very poignant in just all the reporting about her. So I guess let me be clear, even if she was, insert any descriptor, negative or positive, a random ICE agent is not the judge, jury, and executioner. It's the same thing. Remember when I told you about Benjamin Guerrero Cruz, the teenager? This was a couple months ago. He was kidnapped while walking his dog, and the agents unclipped the dog's leash from her collar. Benjamin, by all accounts, is an angel, but it was very important for me to say that even if he were not, his mistreatment is not justified. And actually, just a side note, we do have an update on Benjamin. He is home. He was at home in time for Christmas, which is lovely. We did get some details on the dog. They are together again. I think, yes, in this photo, he's holding up a photo of their reunion. And let me just share some words. This is from Sarah Houston, Benjamin's immigration attorney, said his detention was the result of a system designed to terrorize immigrant families and criminalize everyday life for immigrant communities. His release is proof that families and communities have power when they resist together. We will continue to fight for a future where immigrant children can walk their dogs, go to school, and live without fear. So just a little positive note before we continue is that Benjamin is now home. with his family. After the shooting, the administration called Renee a domestic terrorist. Those words were put beside a photo of stuffed animals in her glove compartment. When actually shown the video in a room full of press, Trump actually backtracked. This is from the New York Times. "We told the president that the early videos circulating online were unclear. I'll play the tape for you right now," Mr. Trump said. Mr. Trump's aide, Natalie Harp, brought a laptop over to the Resolute desk to show us what he said would be evidence of the woman's wrongdoing. Before the video began, Mr. Trump acknowledged the tragic nature of the shooting. "With all of it being said, no, I don't like that happening," he said, before pivoting to his common refrain of criticizing illegal immigration. As a slow-motion surveillance video of the shooting played on the laptop, we told him that this angle did not appear to show that an ICE officer had been run over. "Well," Mr. Trump said, the way I look at it, it's a terrible scene," Mr. Trump said at the end of the video. "I think it's horrible to watch. No, I hate to see it." So feeling a little bit less convicted by the previous domestic terrorist statement and that whole Truth Social post after being shown the video, likely for the first time in a room full of that press. The next day, J.D. Vance said multiple times that ICE agents move with absolute impunity, which, no, they do not. Those words, however, will kill more people. We then got the video from the perspective of Jonathan Ross, handed to us as if it closed the case. Like to any human being with a conscience, you watch that perspective and you are even more horrified. You see her say her last words, "That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you." You see her wife make fun of him. He's circling the car. He switches his phone to his other hand before she even pulls forward. He decided to murder her in that moment before her car even moves, and then calls her a fucking bitch. For that to make any sense as proof of innocence, which is how it was released, you have to try to think in a very dark way. For that to be like a C, he's in the right, you have to already want violence against those two women. It was presented as an example of who it's okay to murder. Two of the things that have stuck with me more than anything as to how someone could be in favor of it is that the footage, or something maybe that's been overlooked, is that the footage makes it clear that the acceleration that we see, the car eventually hitting the white car parked on the other side of the street, is because a corpse can't drive. She was already dead. And her body hit the gas pedal. Like that's so clear in that video. And then to deny the medical care of the people identifying themselves as physicians in the crowd that had gathered is incredibly damning. I'm sure that most men have felt nothing but anger this week, if you share my opinion on the matter. But women are likely feeling something different. I want to quickly share a video from a creator, Brian Recker, about this unique dynamic.
The men, come on in, boys, let's talk. Over the last week, I've talked to many women who say that things feel scary right now. Many of us men seem oblivious to this because we move through a very different world than women do. When I saw the video of Jonathan Ross shooting Renee Good in broad daylight, I felt anger. I hate bullies. But many women felt something deeper and more familiar. Fear. Most women have experienced an angry man like Ross, a man who demands that things go his way or else. Many have been in a relationship with one. When Renee's wife, Becca Good, confronted the officer moments before the shooting and mocked him,
"I said go get yourself some lunch, big boy."
In that moment, women watching knew why Renee died. They've seen men go ballistic over far less. And when Renee said,
"That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you."
"It's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you," women recognize the reflex, the placating, shrinking themselves to calm male rage, reassuring men that violence isn't necessary. And after he killed her, when Ross called her a fucking bitch, that too was familiar. The entitlement, the wounded ego, the demand for respect from uppity women. Women could clearly see this was not a man afraid for his life. This was misogynistic rage. In many ways, women know these men better than we do. Women have been walking on eggshells around explosive men like this their entire lives. Margaret Atwood put it this way: Men are afraid that women will laugh at them. Women are afraid that men will kill them.
This second angle also revealed that their dog was in the back seat. We have no information on the dog besides they seemed to be okay as they were seen sitting in the snow with Rebecca after the murder. A few days later, masked agents were then seen moving Jonathan Ross's things out of his house. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension said Thursday it had been cut off from accessing case files relating to the fatal shooting of Renee Nicole Good, leaving the Federal Bureau of Investigation as the sole investigating body. In a statement sent by the BCA Thursday morning, officials said the FBI informed the agency it would no longer be part of the joint investigation and will lose access to case materials, scene evidence, and investigative interviews. Without complete access to the evidence, witnesses, and information collected, we cannot meet the investigative standards that Minnesota law and the public demands. As a result, the BCA has reluctantly withdrawn from the investigation, the statement said. The GoFundMe for the family has been closed after raising $1.5 million of their $50,000 goal. The latest update says, "Thank you for your generosity. We've closed this GoFundMe and will place the funds in a trust for the family. If you're looking to donate, we encourage you to support others in need. We're truly grateful." Just as a fun little note, Charlie Kirk's fundraiser is currently at $5.4 million out of a $6 million goal that has been raised dozens of times since its creation. This was obvious at the time, but hopefully it's clearer to everybody now. A lot of people 3 or 4 months ago said, I don't care what someone's political beliefs are. They don't deserve to lose their life. And they don't seem to be as convicted by that statement now. As of this morning, according to the New York Times, 6 Minnesota federal prosecutors have resigned after the Justice Department pushed them to investigate Rebecca Good, the widow. Their only goal in that being to make her a criminal so she cannot be seen as a victim. I do want to share some of the legal precedent for situations like this. This is not in any way to say that any of it really matters or will be respected in any way, but clear as day, nothing supports the actions Jonathan Ross took that day. So if you're anyone who cares about the law, here you go. These were put together by Reb Maisel or Massel. She's a wonderful follow on both TikTok and Instagram, and very quickly put together all of the precedent for situations like this. So, and we'll leave links to all of this. So if I butcher it or you want to revisit it, please feel free. So I'm going to read the top line of these. Feel free to pause and read the specific quotes from each case. There's quite a few. First up, Tennessee versus Gardner, 1985. A police officer's use of deadly force is not justified simply because a suspect is fleeing and or not complying with an officer's order. Barnes versus Felix just last year. Unanimous rejection of moment of threat test. Whether officer used excessive force must be analyzed under an objective reasonableness standard, considering the totality of the circumstances, not just moment of threat. Scott versus Smith, just 2 years ago, a simple statement by an officer that he fears for his safety or the safety of others is not enough. Not enough. There must be objective factors to justify such a concern. That's probably the one we hear most of. I feared for my life. Not enough. In Cordova versus Aragon in 2009, they denied qualified immunity to a police officer who shot at a fleeing suspect's vehicle because any danger the officer was in by the suspect in the fleeing vehicle had passed by the time he fired a fatal shot. In that case, he shot 4 to 5 times in the vehicle, hitting the driver in the head and killing him. So a very apt comparison there. Orrin versus the city of Tacoma. In 2020, an officer standing near a slow-moving vehicle would not have perceived himself to be in danger of serious bodily harm because he could have avoided any risk of injury by simply stepping to the side. The police officer could not reasonably have feared for his own safety because he was on the side of the suspect's vehicle as it was traveling away from him. Villanova versus Cleveland in 2021, no qualified immunity for an officer shooting at a slow-moving vehicle. Acosta versus the city and county of San Francisco in 2021, denying qualified immunity for a police officer where he shot and killed a suspect in a moving vehicle. And let's see, there's the last one. Adams versus Spears in 2007, denying qualified immunity for a CHP officer, Paul Spears, who shot and killed a fleeing suspect after shooting 6 times into the suspect's vehicle following a car chase, which began when the suspect rolled several stop signs, and refused to stop for police. All of these cases are precedent to support that what Jonathan Ross did, the choices he made, were illegal, and that was murder. Aside from those specific court cases, there's been a lot of digging into the actual DHS tactics and the CPB use of force policy, and that's where it's really hard to justify some of the actions he made on that day. This is word for word from the CPB's use of force policy. Except where otherwise required by inspections or other operations, authorized officers or agents should avoid standing directly in front of or behind a subject vehicle. Officers or agents should not place themselves in the path of a moving vehicle or use their body to block a vehicle's path. Authorized officers or agents should avoid intentionally and unreasonably placing themselves in positions in which they have no alternative to using deadly force. Also, I think it's fairly obvious that then rendering no emergency aid, restricting others from doing so, and then leaving the scene of an incident, therefore tampering with variables therein, is also not advised in any of these, any of their official tactics. If at any point you thought, but that must have been so scary for him, or he had a previous injury inflicted by someone in a moving vehicle, he didn't want that to happen again, or even why didn't she just comply, or numerous other criticisms of how Renee acted in this moment, please consider, and this is so frustrating. Why are cops and other agents of authority allowed to be such weak-minded little boys, but civilians are expected to handle incredibly tense situations perfectly and with grace? Why is there an expectation to react to armed, masked men trying to open your car door while getting conflicting instructions calmly? Why is there that expectation on random civilians? I want to share the perspective of Pat Lawler. He's a veteran and broke down this dynamic, I think, rather bluntly.
As a veteran, I don't understand why cops are allowed to be cowards and civilians aren't. Untrained civilians are not going to react to dangerous situations well, so we should expect the trained individuals to, control that situation. I remember in Afghanistan, when I was embedded with my infantry company, I was their medic. We had a situation where a truck was barreling down on us in an area where we had bombers in trucks before, and we didn't shoot that guy. Instead, we went through all of our SOPs, signaling to him and waving our weapon towards him to try to be like, hey, you keep driving and there are going to be consequences. And then it would have escalated to non-lethal force, attempting to disable the engine block, and then finally, as a last resort, shooting the driver. The guy in charge of that situation was an 18-year-old kid who could barely read. But that was the expectation. He has training, the civilian doesn't. That guy with training needs to do more than the one who doesn't. But apparently not in America. And I've seen the video, and it's like, oh, no, you'd be thrown in Leavenworth for that. But cops are allowed to just be like, I was scared for my life. I was scared the whole time I was in Afghanistan. Multiple of my convoys were hit by IEDs. We had bombers at the gate of our fob. We were in combat for weeks at a time, and yet the barely literate 18-year-olds that I were with had the training not to just pop off every time they got a little scared. Why do we expect civilians to react appropriately to terrifying situations if the guy with the training can't? Humans fight or flight. You should expect that from them when you wave a weapon at them. And if they can't fight you legally, and they can't flee from you legally, what the do you think is going to happen? But God, if young people can be trained not to be overzealous in a war zone, they sure can be trained not to do that in America, where they're not actually in any danger. And if I haven't made it clear through the autism that I find this entire situation disgusting and horrific, I do. But I'm too tired to react appropriately.
Why do we expect civilians to react appropriately to terrifying situations? Hopefully we can all get on board that that's a terrifying situation. If the guy with the training can't. Even more damning, I know that Pat mentions they get like 40 days of training, but even more damning, this wasn't some random ICE agent that got 40 days of training. Ross has worked for ICE since 2015 when he joined the agency as a deportation officer. Also, one of the, I have to mention it, one of the funniest aspects of this very not funny story is that his house had a big "Don't Tread on Me" flag hanging out front. And I don't feel the need to comment further on that. Before we leave this specific incident, I do want to read Rebecca Good's full statement. I think that it would be a disservice to sharing all of these other details without sharing her words, which I think should be prioritized in these moments. First, I want to extend my gratitude to all the people who have reached out from across the country and around the world to support our family. This kindness of strangers is the most fitting tribute because if you ever encountered my wife, Renee Nicole Macklin Good, you know that above all else, she was kind. In fact, kindness radiated out of her. Renee sparkled. She literally sparkled. God, that's what I say about Taylor all the time. So that's tough. I mean, she didn't wear glitter, but I swear she had sparkles coming out of her pores all the time. You might think it was just my love talking, but her family said the same thing. Renee was made of sunshine. Renee lived by an overarching belief: there is kindness in the world, and we need to do everything we can to find it where it resides and nurture it where it needs to grow. Renee was a Christian who knew that all religions teach the same essential truth: we are here to love each other, care for each other, and keep each other safe and whole. Like people have done across place and time, we moved to make a better life for ourselves. We chose Minnesota to make our home. Our whole extended road trip here, we held hands in the car while our son drew all over the windows to pass the time and the miles. What we found when we got here was a vibrant and welcoming community. We made friends and spread joy. And while any place we were together was home, there was a strong shared sense here in Minneapolis that we were looking out for each other. Here, I had finally found peace and safe harbor. That has been taken from me forever. We were raising our son to believe that no matter where you come from or what you look like, all of us deserve compassion and kindness. Renee lived this belief every day. She is pure love. She is pure joy. She is pure sunshine. On Wednesday, January 7th, we stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles, they had guns. Renee leaves behind 3 extraordinary children. The youngest is just 6 years old and already lost his father. I am now left to raise our son and to continue teaching him, as Renee believed, that there are people building a better world for him, that the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts, and we need to show them a better way. We thank you for the privacy you are granting our family as we grieve. We thank you for ensuring that Renee's legacy is one of kindness and love. We honor her memory by living her values, rejecting hate and choosing compassion, turning away from fear and pursuing peace, refusing division and knowing we must come together to build a world where we all come home safe to the people we love. Unfortunately, this is dominating the news because she was closer to a perfect victim than those murdered before her. She was a young white woman, and again, there were stuffed animals in her glove compartment. Please be careful not to pair your shock at her murder with ignorance regarding brutality at the hands of the state. In general, I found this video to be particularly sobering.
Wait, a white woman was killed? I'm starting to think we have a serious systemic problem. Wait a minute. Law enforcement can't just be shooting people. Oh my gosh, they're lying. Law enforcement is lying right in front of her. This is just now getting out of hand. I don't think I like this. She was white, and she still got killed, but she was white.
What is also sobering is this statement released by Freedom for Immigrants, naming the known deaths within concentration camps just in recent weeks. Following the deaths of Keith Porter, a black man who was killed in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve by an off-duty Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent, and Renee Nicole Good, a legal observer who was killed yesterday in Minneapolis in broad daylight by an ICE agent caught on camera, Lauren Hernandez, executive director of Freedom for Immigrants, issued the following statement. We grieve alongside the loved ones of Keith Porter and Renee Nicole Good, whose lives were cruelly cut short by extrajudicial ICE murders. We stand in solidarity with the LA and Minneapolis communities who will seek to heal and this amid this administration's ongoing invasions into our neighborhoods, schools, homes, and places of work. Make no mistake, ICE's terror is anything but rogue. This agency is operating exactly as intended and as it has for decades, only now with a record high level of resources and unfettered power. As we have witnessed across its sprawling yet secretive detention system for decades, ICE and DHS violence is calculated, systemic, and central to the agency's broader mission of instilling fear in communities and destroying families through detention, deportation, and increasingly, death. If this administration is willing to blatantly lie, even when their wrongdoing is caught on camera, to what lengths are they going behind the walls of their detention camps to terrorize immigrants? We already know 2025 was the deadliest year on record in ICE custody, with over 30 deaths, including 7 in December alone. We mourn the lives of Keith Porter and Renee Nicole Good, as well as all of those who have died in immigration detention in recent weeks. And beside me are those names. We call upon elected officials at every level to actualize the demands of our communities across the country who are demanding an end to ICE's terror. As we have seen over the past year, immigration is the tip of the spear when it comes to Trump and Stephen Miller expanding their police state and authoritarian control. It is up to every person of conscience to resist, disrupt, and reject their agenda of mass deportation, detention, and militarized enforcement. So we're now at the what now portion of the video, and this is probably what I've thought the most about, what's been the most consuming in the last week. And I'm very torn on the concept of engaging in the democratic process where there is no opposition party to fascism in relation to those saying that the midterm elections will be a real bludgeon to this administration, and how simply voting is going to create enough opposition to lessen the violence. But there are no signs that any elected official in the Democratic Party has or will do anything at scale to hinder this administration. I am also willing to accept that my opinion on voting is a bit naive, but I can never shake that one tweet that says, oh yeah, here it is. The last decade has been the Democrats clinging onto a rule book going, but a dog can't play basketball while a dog dunks on us over and over. Yeah, the saddest part is that was written in 2018. So the score is now several million to 0 in favor of the Republicans. And that, that's just some extra dog content for you in this episode. So I feel a lot of pessimism around the future and what if the democratic process can take us out of this, given the rest of the systems that support it, or the secondary systems that prop it up. One of the things that has given me a lot of optimism recently was last year when we did that whole episode about Chop, the dog that was killed by an ICE agent, and we amplified that story, and it was like nationwide news the next night. And this community did that, and that's not something that happens if these feelings are in the minority, or that's not something that happens if the passion and the enthusiasm for what is right isn't there. So that certainly. There's always like that there's more of us than there are of them mentality that I'm trying to cling to that from a hope standpoint. But we'll see how the midterms affect this, if any, if at all. Fingers crossed that it does. You can hear a little bit of the pessimism around future elections regarding will it really matter? Protesting hasn't done anything. So what do I suggest? This is where I'm going to be a little bit careful with my words. I'd like to introduce you to Kwame Turi, born Stokely Carmichael. He is a key leader in the development of the Black Power movement, first while leading the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, then as the honorary prime minister of the Black Panther Party. He has a very famous quote that is part of what we're going to listen to. In it, he's discussing Dr. King's bus boycott.
Dr. King and his associates got together and said, "This is inhuman. We will boycott your bus system." Now understand what a boycott is. A boycott is a passive act. It is the most passive political act that anyone can commit, a boycott. Because what the boycott was doing was simply saying, we will not ride your buses. No sort of antagonism. He was not even verbally violent. He was peaceful. Dr. King's policy was that nonviolence would achieve the gains for black people in the United States. His major assumption was that if you are nonviolent, if you suffer, your opponent will see your suffering and will be moved to change his heart. That's very good. He only made one fallacious assumption. In order for nonviolence to work, your opponent must have a conscience. The United States has none. Has none.
There's a really good book called This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed. It is all about how guns made the civil rights movement possible. And it's a really good read, and I suggest it. So violence, scary and uncomfortable to confront for most of us, me included. I'd like to dive into a few reasons why we probably feel that way, though. We've been, or at least my generation has been fed a ton of armed resistance propaganda throughout our entire education. I want to share a take that really resonated with me, especially with how much I've learned about Palestinians in recent years. This is from a creator named Kayla.
I think a lot of liberals are having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that, armed resistance might be something that is necessary to get us out of this. And I think it's because they've spent so many decades condemning the armed resistance of people who are fighting against U.S. imperialism. Liberal America has called legitimate armed resistors terrorists for decades and decades. But now these liberals are saying that they'll call anyone a terrorist to justify whatever they do. Anyone who doesn't fall in line with the U.S. empire is a terrorist. That's how they use that term. And now you're seeing it being used against people that look like you, that talk like you, that have names like yours. You've been indoctrinated your whole life to condemn any sort of resistance to the status quo, no matter how violent that status quo is. Voting is not going to change this. The person who shot and murdered Renee Good was hired during the Obama administration. This is not a Trump administration thing. This is not a Republican thing. This is a bipartisan thing. This is an American thing.
Yeah, we hate a resistance unless it's Star Wars. In that case, we seem to be on board. My second reason why I think violence gets us uncomfortable is a growing individuality. And I think this is one of the things I've wrestled with the most, and it's that, like, I do value my own life and my friends and family and the things that I've created, and so do most people. So it's a very tough sell to abandon the status quo, no matter how up it gets. I also think it really serves us to expand our definition of violence. Our current definition, and how most people see it, is very narrow. Violence is not only a lethal gunshot wound to the neck. It is not only graphic, loud, shocking things. It is not only things that happen in close proximity to you. It is also the systems keeping people unhoused, uneducated, without health care, and without food security. It is our foreign policy. Violence can be slow and methodical and completely out of sight. This violence is constant, and a violent response to it is not escalation. Another helpful piece of context when you look at the world stage, and hopefully by now you know how closely the US and Israel work together on the world stage. What we have allowed and continue to allow in Gaza has given permission for similar acts everywhere with impunity. We have consented to the exact same fate by doing absolutely nothing. Gaza was the blueprint, and now what we've allowed there, we will allow here. And that's a very scary thought. The other comparison is Rwanda. In the 1994 Rwandan genocide, the media was used heavily to influence the Hutus to hate the Tutsis. They wielded this influence to effectively initiate the slaughter of the Tutsis. The call to action broadcast, literally on the radio, was, "It's time to cut down the tall trees," in reference to the Tutsis, who were generally taller and fairer skinned. The Hutus then murdered hundreds of thousands of Tutsi men, women, and children. A creator who goes by Absurdist Gap on TikTok very plainly connected this to the grip that media orgs like Fox News and AON have on right-wingers. And her ultimate question that she posed was, do you really think that if they asked their viewers to murder those who they saw as ideological opponents, that a few of them wouldn't? MAGA does not sincerely believe it's self-defense. They just find it incredibly thrilling to see a cop as proxy execute a woman they've decided is an ideological enemy. It's a pure crystallization of their deepest desires, and seeing it for them is akin to religious revelation. Lastly, I would be careful with some of your Nazi comparisons. Certainly not because I think this is a lesser evil, but because historical accuracy is important if you're going to cite it. I wrote that, and then they did some pretty Nazi very bluntly, so just bear with me. As I'm recording this, Homeland Security announced a new slogan, "We'll have our home again," which are the exact lyrics to the KKK song, "By God, We'll Have Our Home Again." Then the Department of Labor straight up used a Nazi-inspired slogan, "One homeland, one people, one heritage." Kristi Noem then gave a speech on a podium that read, "One of ours, all of yours." The phrase evokes the Liddus massacre in June 1942, where Nazis retaliated for Reinhard Heydrich's assassination by wiping out an entire Czech village. SS forces shot nearly all men over 14, sent women to Ravensbrück camp, and scattered children, some gassed, others Germanized. They then razed the site, killing about 340 in a symbol of terror tactics. International law forbids collective penalties post-Nuremberg. But hey, once again, since we've constantly ignored international law as it pertains to the genocide in Gaza, who's going to stop us? I still do have two Nazi comparisons that I think need caution. The first is an observation better told by creator Ashley B. about how comparisons to the Gestapo are more comfortable because it's a foreign thing. They were Hitler's guys over there, when a more accurate and raw comparison is actually slave catchers.
ICE isn't just like the Gestapo. They're closer to slave catchers. And once that clicks, a lot of people get real uncomfortable real fast. Every time ICE comes up, someone reaches for that Gestapo comparison. And I get why they do it. Raids in the middle of the night, neighbors disappearing, families gone before breakfast. That's the kind of terror that people were taught to recognize, as long as it happened to people that look like them. But that comparison is doing a whole lot of emotional work that it just doesn't deserve. Because structurally, historically, ICE does not move like the Gestapo. They move like slave patrols. And the reason nobody wants to say that out loud is because slave patrols aren't foreign. They're not exotic. They're not evil elsewhere. They're American, homegrown. Slave patrols were legal, state-funded, community-supported. Their job was simple: stop people, demand proof, and decide on site who belonged and who didn't. No crime required, no trial, no explanation. Just papers, accent, skin, and presence. That's it. That's the blueprint. They weren't hunting ideology. They weren't fighting enemies of the state. They were enforcing status. Who's allowed to move? Who's allowed to stay? Who can be taken and who can be returned? And here's the part people really don't want to sit with. Slave patrols are the history that a lot of white families don't talk about because it's not abstract, it's not distant, and it doesn't end with, and the bad guys lost. It sounds like something someone's great-great-grandfather may have done on a Tuesday afternoon. So people grab the Gestapo instead, because the Gestapo says that could never be us. Slave patrols say this is exactly us. The Gestapo comparison lets you condemn terror without interrogating lineage. Slave patrols, however, force you to admit that American terror didn't need a dictator. It needed law. It needed paperwork. It needed permission. It needed neighbors that said, well, that's just how this works. That's why ICE feels so familiar to some and shocking to others, because some of us recognize the pattern immediately. Civil enforcement, administrative power, we're just enforcing the law, you know? Paperwork treated like morality and families treated like inventory. Different uniforms, different century, same logic. And that's why the Gestapo comparison keeps circulating, because it centers fear once it touches people that look like the ones telling the story. Slave patrols force a deeper realization, right? What if the terror wasn't imported? What if it was foundational? What if it never actually ended, it just learned a new language? ICE is not an accident, it's not a deviation, and it isn't new. It's old power doing what it's always done, just with updated branding and better PR. And once you see that, yeah, that's the oh shit moment.
One additional note on that perspective is that there's plenty of evidence to suggest that the Gestapo was actually inspired by slave catchers and by our wrangling of Native Americans. The second comparison that I want you to be careful with is Nuremberg, the international criminal trials at the end of the Second World War. I've seen Nuremberg cited as some moral peak, this very black and white example of justice and what we should be aiming for whenever whatever this is done. Only 10 people were executed after the Nuremberg trials, and many had their sentences commuted and then they fled. Nuremberg is not the standard for justice. I think we should be aiming to set a new standard of justice when these agents are put on trial. I am guessing, because I know this audience very well, that the majority of you will always find violence nauseating. Congratulations. That means I think you're pretty evolved. You are suited for the world we should be experiencing by this point in our evolution as humans and as a society, but our systems remain violent and they require violent opposition to change. This is the people's history, always whitewashed to remove the violence and convince us that good things come from effective debate and the democratic process. My advice that I've really found by seeking it out, both from people that are way too online and not, is that you can fix your brain by getting in touch with your body enough to know when you're stuck in fight or flight or fawn or freeze, so you can regulate. That's something I freeze absolutely when something horrible happens, and now it's in my feed and every video I'm getting served is more of that horror or takes on the horror or a meta look at the horror. Like it's all, it freezes me, and you can't do much in that state, and it really affects your mental health. And most importantly, it does prevent action, whether it be for yourself or for your community. So I suggest knowing how you react in those situations and figuring out how to regulate. That looks different for everybody, and trust me, it takes a lot of practice, but it is worth it. And then my second piece of advice is to be human. Sing and dance and move your body, talk to your neighbor and support your community. All of that feels, it can feel a bit scary, but I promise it becomes natural again really quickly. My advice for ICE agents is to get out while you can, because history says the most likely outcome is for you to be hanging by a lamppost and then your body paraded through the streets. Thank you all for giving me the space to make this episode. I know it's a bit of a deviation from our usual content, but it felt right, it felt honest, and I think that's the most important thing I can do with this platform. You all are typically very appreciative and enthusiastic when I get a little bit fired up. That's certainly what this was. And more than anything, you all recognize that to care about dogs, you have to care about people as well. And this is a situation that certainly affects all of us. I think we might be taking next week off. So our next episode will come out on the 29th. Take care of yourselves, take care of your neighbors. And I'd like to end this episode by playing this video of an ICE agent slipping on ice 100 times.
pussy! Fucking pussy! Fucking